are here at Don't Not, and with me are two people actually from Don't Not. One is
Shalev.
And you are?
I am the lead designer in Portaplay, a studio working with Don't Not.
And on my other side,
I am Hans van Knut, the creative director on the game GERDA, A Flame in Winter that we are doing in Portaplay together with Don't Not.
and now we are curious what you have thought up on, of course, because you are pretty famous for certain games. And now this time, however, the game is a little bit different. We already noticed. We have had a small look within our team. Unfortunately, not I personally, but within our team, we had a small look at the game. And we already noticed it's different. What can you tell us about the background?
Well, we were working on Broken Lines a couple of years ago, a war game, but also an anti-war game about collateral damage and the challenges with going out with guns blazing. So we were thinking about, could we make a game where you didn't solve the problems with guns and bombs, but in other ways? And that inspired me to the story of my grandparents, who were resistance fighters during World War II, and they were fighting the Nazi occupation, but they saw the German soldiers in the country as human beings, and they were not their enemy. So they did a lot of resistance fighting. They spied on the coastal fortifications for the Americans. They smuggled explosives and guns. They hit resistance fighters, but they didn't want to kill the individual German. They just wanted to throw the occupational forces out of the country. And we thought this dilemma that to fight against something that is not right, but also to have moral boundaries to what you want to do and what you don't want to do, was a very interesting dilemma. And that made us make the game GERDA, A Flame in Winter about a half Danish, half German nurse who lives near the border of Germany on the Danish side, amongst the population which is 50% Danes and 50% Germans, and who are trying to save everybody as the war is about to end, but ends up in a very tricky situation where she might have to choose who she can help.
So now we've just started the game, and that's also many information at the same time. One from the background from you. I mean, you said it's the story of your grandmother, right?
That is correct, or at least it is inspired by my grandmother. She lived in the area and she did resistance fighting, and she lost many good friends. And my grandfather, he got deported to a concentration camp but survived. But the game is not her story, but it is inspired by her stories and other stories from that area and that time.
So when we are looking at the game, we can already see the first bit of the content. The first thing we see is, of course, the art style. It's a very unique art style with a kind of oil painting-like feeling. Why did you choose that?
So the art style is inspired by a group of actual Danish impressionist painters from the golden age of Danish painting, called the Skagen painters, early impressionist painters who worked in the region that the game takes place in South Jutland. And we're really trying to bring out the culture of that region to make it the game feel specific and unique in many different ways. Not just respect the culture, but also those impressionist painters knew how to capture the unique lighting of that region. That region is a region that is very flat with big skies and always overcast. And there's very beautiful, soft, unique lighting that you can see in many of the outdoor scenes throughout the game. So both serving the kind of mood and atmosphere that we want to bring, all those grays and browns and spots, giving the feeling of the murky waters that you're in, the gray morality that you have to deal with, but also bringing the beauty of the region and giving a little nod to the culture that this game is coming from.
Okay, when we're looking at the interface, there's a first decision coming up. That's also a good point. That's something we need to talk about. It's it's an adventure, but it's kind of a special adventure. I mean, here you have decisions, but we already noticed you don't just have decisions, you also have decisions that can fail. You have something like a skill and things we know more from RPG-like games. What's the origin and the sort of that?
So this is a game that sits in the middle between, let's say, classic adventure and the things that Don't Know does in some of their games, and CRPGs. And you can see the stats that you are always monitoring, your abilities as well as your standing with some of the factions in the game. And of course there's many characters, and with the main characters in the game you also have personal trust. And all these things coalesce into a lot of checks and chance rolls, so there is always this RPG element throughout the game governing it. What it gives you, and we think is very special, is it reinforces the weight of choices. Usually when players play, branching narrative games, they make a choice and it affects what's happening and the game branches in a different direction. But we want to bring this atmosphere that a person living under such complicated crises and under occupation in these situations, they always have to have a mental model of like, how will my decisions not only affect what's happening now, but also my standing with these people, and I can't make everybody happy. And we think that the RPG mechanics really bring this mood to light. You're always in a bit of a strategic mood, even when you're in a dramatic situation, and no decision is easy. One decision might give you some kind of profit in the long run, but will really disappoint somebody right now, or the other way around. And there's always more than one faction that is looking at you saying, okay, what is she deciding? What is she going to do? Like here, for example, there is the woman that obviously needs help. Her son has been hit by a car, but the German officer standing next to her don't care so much. She's Danish, he's German. For him, he needs to govern her. And you, stuck in the middle, need to make a choice. What will you do and how it will affect your standing with the different characters. So I'm gonna try to protect the boy, say he's the victim, but it might cost me.
Okay, so yeah, we can immediately see how the stats change. However, in this moment, only to the better for the Danes. Nothing else. Nothing went down.
Let's give it a moment. Can you play on, Shadow? Oh, there we go. Snap. So basically what this shows is that when you do something now, it might help you now, but it might hurt you down the road. And this was a kind of short down the road, but in general in the game, there's a lot of the choices early on which will have repercussions down the road, or cascade into a bigger snowball down the road as your standing with different fractions change. Because if you mostly side with the Danes, then you might feel that you are fighting against the occupation, but then you won't have the Germans to have your back to help you save your husband. So who do you side with? Who do you want to save? Do you want to stand up against what is not right, or do we want to save your husband, which is in trouble? And we don't believe in right or wrong answers and black and white answers. Both of these two ways to act are understandable. But you as a player has to decide, what do you think is the right thing to do in this situation? What would you do if you were in Gerda's shoes?
Another thing is that Gerda herself, she's half German and half Danish, which is not uncommon for these border regions. And that's why she also has the ability to mediate between sides. And her allegiance is not set. And also when people address her, of course she's accepted everywhere, but not completely. They also everybody suspects her a little bit. And here, for example, even a small choice like, do I ask a question in German or do I ask a question in Danish, always has repercussions. So now, for example, now I will lean on my German side and I will ask in German. And that, of course, will make the Danish person maybe a bit more aggressive towards me.
Does it mean that you can run in a dead end with the story because nobody likes you enough anymore?
So we really focused on making sure that every choice is a meaningful choice. So there's no dead ends. You will always finish the story, and you can make a lot of bad decisions or even have failed chance rolls, because we also have a lot of chance rolls in the game, but you will always fail forward. So the story will wrap around every choice you make. The story will wrap around your successes and your failures and move you towards the ending. But how you get to the ending, that's a different story. Who did you manage to save? Who got hurt? And how they see you, that is something that can change massively according to your actions and according to your luck and according to your standing with different factions.
That is, of course, why when you've played it the first time and you don't think it ended up optimally, you can try again, because there is a lot of content in the game, a lot of branches, a lot of location and scenes that you won't see the first time you play it, and a lot of the different ending combinations you won't see, of course. So playing it again will maybe allow you to both see what other plots and other storylines you didn't see, but also try to make it better, try to save more people, and try to end up with something that you more as a player and as a person can defend.
So when you are progressing towards the end and already talking about the end, how many endings are there?
Well, there are a few main endings. I would say you could say between 4 to 8 main differences in the endings, but then there are a lot of variations on the 15 side characters that you also encounter and build relationship throughout the games. So there's a lot of combinations, I would say.
The game kind of opens up and closes and opens up and closes throughout the plot again, and you can see different scenes, and you can go to different places in exchange of others, and then of course it coalesces in a big climactic ending, and that big climactic ending will happen in the same place, but the results will vary differently. And even inside the ending sequence, and we will not spoil anything, you can take several different routes, and many fates will be decided in the ending in a way that mathematically it's very big, but there's definitely a few runs you can do through the game and experience very different events, or the same events from very different angles, by siding with different people or trying to help different people and maybe succeeding and failing, and all these combinations create a lot of clashes that kind of feed. In the end, you will influence the fate of about 12 or 15 characters, I think. And those fates can vary differently. Each of them has several fates that you can kind of influence that merge together for the ending.
Okay, so we have many possibilities. You can play this a tons of times and see every time a different ending. But is there one ending or one possibility for an ending that you would call a positive ending, a happy ending?
I would say a happy ending depends on the player, because a lot of the endings will be justifiable and will be good endings for you if you believe that was the right thing to do and you were ready to pay the cost, because it is a game about real life and it is a game about how actions and choices have consequences. I would say it's very hard to get the perfect ending where you save everybody, because as in real life, as in war and in conflict, it's very hard to save everybody. You always have to prioritize, and you always have to some degree, pick sides to achieve anything.
Okay, so that's something we need to talk about, what we've just seen there. There was once a scene where you had to press your luck and roll the dice. What was that about?
So you saw I had a chance roll, and I had several, I think I had in this case 2 different things affecting the chance roll. My standing with a certain faction, one of my abilities, and these all contribute to my attempt, and some attempts are harder and easier, but the way the story works, the way the narrative works, it always wraps around either your successes or failures. Even if you fail, you can't try again, but there will be something interesting happening that will push the story forward. And we want to really encourage players to give in to that, more faster pace of a story game, when you don't, circle back again and try, but you give into this thing of, if I succeed or if I fail, the story is moving forward and I'm moving forward with it. But definitely, there are a lot of ways for you to solve things, and many of the scenes and encounters culminate in some kind of chance roll, and you really need to think, do I, for example, save my ability points so I have better luck at chance rolls, or do I spend them at some points to get an edge over a specific scenario, but then my next chance roll will be worse off. I will not be able to spend that ability point in somewhere else. We really want to put the player in this strategic mind, where you're not a superpowered hero. You're a normal person trying their best, but if you spend too much here, then you don't succeed there.
Isn't it a problem that if some players has really bad luck and is always failing, that can lead to a dead end?
Never. We don't have dead end in the game because we want you to always be able to complete the game, and we want and do in the game ensure that no matter what you do, you will get something interesting. Because a failed chance roll is not you failing as a player, it is you trying to influence a person to see things your way or do things you want that person to do, but they decline or they say no to you, and that is what happened, and you cannot control it, and life goes on and the game goes on, and you have to live with that. But also, we as game designers and developers don't punish you by giving you a game over, because what you did and what you tried and failed in was also okay, and then we will just show you what happens due to it.
We believe that in story games, the reward is more story. And we will always give you more story. So players that come to us to, experience an interesting narrative, they will always get it. But just like in life, sometimes you get the short end of the stick. As long as the story is moving forward in an interesting way, and you're going to see the story moving forward here, we think that's fine. But we also think that some games, describe themselves as being brutal and tough, while actually giving you a lot of cozy moments to retry and you feeling like you're super powerful. This game is actually brutal. This game is actually tough because you don't get a second chance. You keep on going, and whatever happens, you have to face the music. So let's see what happened now that I failed my chance roll. This guy has had enough, and he is stupid enough to attack the German Wehrmacht soldier who is harassing him, and that's how he gets himself into a lot of trouble, and he's arrested.
That's always a good idea to start a physical fight with a soldier, because you will always win, that's clear.
Yeah, that's also a point. I mean, you as a GERDA, as a mediator, you tried to make the situation better. You could have succeeded. Here you failed. If you did another tactic to solve the situation, maybe you had succeeded. But this normal civilian also is just a normal person, and he kind of tried to solve the situation in a way that won't work in reality. So of course it failed for him as well. And there's a moral in this, like, you are not superpowered, you are a normal person, but you can affect and you can change all these situations. You just need to maybe take some liberties with your ethics and accept that if you want to save people, you might need to get your hands dirty, or if you want to, or you can sacrifice some people and keep your ethics clean and nice. But you cannot get both. You cannot get all you want.
You already told us that this is like other games you did, an anti-war game. So this is playing in a war setting. So probably you don't really want us to feel happy while playing the game, do you?
It is a game full of hope and heartwarming moments. It's not a depressive game, but it's a game which shows you some desperation and some frustration. So of course, it's not a game about being happy all the time. We do believe that most players in the end either will have a very heartwarming moment or have a sad poetic moment. And we believe both of these experiences are important and interesting. But no, it's not a happy-go-lucky game, and we cannot guarantee you a happy ending.
Okay, yeah, unfortunately we need to come to an ending. There's already the next people knocking on the door, which is quite sad because it's very interesting to talk to you and I have the feeling we could do this for a while longer. So let me come to a wrap up. There's one last question I have, which is, it's the first game you did that you did not develop yourself. Why did you choose not to develop this game yourself?
We are the people who are developing the game.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, then it's...
Don't not make that choice. We are their first third-party developer that they're publishing. So you'll have to take it with them. But what they told us is that this game, with its tough choices, with its focus on human moments and human relations, aligns with the editorial line. Of course, we do things differently because we're a much smaller indie studio in terms of the production, but then also in terms of like the thematics and stuff like that. But it definitely aligns with the type of experiences and the type of approach that Dotnod takes with the other titles, the first-party titles. And we think and they think also that people who like the kind of dilemmas and the kind of gameplay that the other titles suggest might probably really love what GERDA has to offer and the kind of challenges that it brings.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much for your time. The last obligatory question is, may we publish the recorded interview and the recorded gameplay?
Yes, of course you may.
Thank you.